And thank you. See the funny voice there. And then I can share that with anyone who's not on screen. Allegra, maybe you can adjust how you're sitting so that we can see yourself in the picture a little bit better. There you go. Awesome. Very good. Okay, so today in our meeting, I just wanted to say that I'm so proud of how everyone has been able to connect to Google Classroom. I think that we have all of the kinks and wrinkles figured out that way. And if you have any questions, please ask your grown-ups to email me and we'll figure that out together. Mr. Bignell has been a great help with that too. And then today was a different day. I had an appointment this morning, as I think that some of you also will be having an appointment today, maybe, or soon. And then, so that's why we had a later meeting today. And in today's meeting, I wanted to ask who was able to start their assignments already today? Because we had a later, good show of hands. All right, so good, you're able to do that. And did anyone have a question about today's language and Bible or math activity? Yes, Elise?
So what do you have to use all the sight words for Bible when you're writing it down?
No, you do not have to use all of the Christmas words when you're retelling the story. You just need to think about the story, imagine, like think about the words in the story in your head, and then in about 3 or 5 sentences, retell the story. Okay. Some of the words, but a lot of the words could help you too. Yes, Joshua.
So do we have all those big words, all of our spelling words?
We're not going to have a spelling test, but yes, those are going to be the words that we're going to be using in our word study activity. But we won't be having a spelling test today.
Yeah,
we're not going to have a spelling test at all this week.
Yeah, but are we going to use those words for our spelling test?
We're going to use all of those. We're going to use those same words in our spelling activities, but we're not going to have a spelling test.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are pretty big, right?
Mm-hmm. Like Christmas in Bethlehem.
Yes, that's right. So for all of the activities that we're going to be doing for spelling, you will always be able to look at the words. You don't have to memorize them. So you can just look at the list and use them in the activities this week. They're going to be kind of fun activities, the ones, our favorite activities like Wordo and things like that. Tomorrow's activity actually uses popsicle sticks. But if you don't have popsicle sticks, you can just use paper strips. That works the same way. If you have popsicle sticks at home, you'll need 12 of them. Maybe you have them in your craft center. If you have a craft center. I don't know. Some of us have the craft collection. Manada. Yes, Madeline.
My mom has an office right upstairs and she has like almost all the supplies that we need.
Great. So sorry, we can't come to Madeline's mom's office store this week, but maybe you also have in your homes a supply of activities like that. So we're supposed to be staying home, right? That's why I said, if you don't have popsicle sticks, you can still do the activity. You can just use just paper strips that are cut to be about the size of a regular popsicle stick. Yes, Allegra?
I wanted to show you my dog, Stella.
Okay, you can show Stella to us quickly, but we have to get back to our meeting after that. And I see Alyssa and Alexa have joined us. Hello, girls. Good morning. Good to see you. Oh, there is Stella, the new puppy. Hello, Stella. Everyone say hello, Stella.
She's pretty squirmy.
She is very wiggly. That's pretty typical for puppies, though, right? Does anyone have a question to Allegra about Stella? A question for her? Madeline does.
She's really cute.
Is she?
Only a couple weeks old, so.
How old did you say?
She's 12 weeks now.
12 weeks. Wow. Nice.
And she's very busy.
Oh, yes.
She likes playing with Luna.
Oh, yes. Nice. Very good. Oh, and I see your Christmas tree behind you. Is she leaving? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eleonora.
I think Eleanor has a question.
Allegra, is it a poodle?
Do you remember what she's called?
I don't really know.
Golden Doodle. So good guess, Eleanor.
Oh yeah, she's a golden doodle, like Ava's dog, but it's funny because she isn't really golden.
No, she's got more poodle than golden retriever in her, which is why she's so dark.
Yes. Nice. The doodle part is part of, or no, the oodle part is part of the poodle.
Yes. Yeah, so she's 3 parts poodle and 1 part golden retriever.
Wow. She's a cutie. And does she keep the Christmas ornaments alone?
Well, she's normally not allowed in the step down where the Christmas tree is. So she's probably wondering why I've got her down here.
Yes, that's confusing. We're confusing her. Well,
I know.
well, Stella, it was lovely to meet you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay. So this morning in our meeting, I'm going to be reading a book that's called The Crippled Lamb. And tomorrow's activities are going to be connected to that Crippled Lamb story. And then I have something behind me. Some of you saw that? Do you see what it's behind me? Special box. We're going to do a Wonder Box activity together in this meeting, and then we will break for a little bit before we have our picnic social time. So I'll try to hold the pictures up as I read, but or just after I read the page. Here we go. The Crippled Lamb by Max Lucado. This is a fiction story about Christmas time. About the first Christmas. Maybe some of you already told me that you have read the story before. That's okay. Did you hear that? Did you hear that buzzing sound? I'm at school, and that's the bell to come in for recess. Once upon a time, in a sunny valley, there lived a little lamb named Joshua. He was white with black spots, black feet, and sad eyes. Josh felt sad when he saw the other lambs with snow white wool and no spots. He felt sad when he saw the other sheep with their moms and dads because he didn't have a mom or dad. But he felt saddest when he saw the other lambs running and jumping because he couldn't. Josh had been born with one leg that didn't work right. He was crippled. He always limped when he walked. That's why he always watched while the other lambs ran and played. Josh felt sad and alone, except when Abigail was around. Abigail was Josh's best friend. She didn't look like a friend for a lamb. She was an old cow. She was brown with white blotches that looked like rain puddles on a path. Her belly was as round as a barrel, and her voice was always kind and friendly. Some of Josh's favorite hours were spent with Abigail. They loved to pretend they were on adventures in distant lands. Josh liked to listen to Abigail tell stories about the stars. They would spend hours on the hill looking into the valley. They were good friends. But even with a friend like Abigail, Josh still got sad. It made him sad to be the only lamb who could not run and jump and play in the grass. That's when Abigail would turn to him and say, "Don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a special place for those who feel left out." Josh wanted to believe her, but it was hard. Some days he just felt alone. He really felt alone the day the shepherds decided to take the lambs to the next valley where there was more grass. The sheep had been in this valley so long, the ground was nearly bare. All the sheep were excited when the shepherd told them they were going to a new meadow. As they prepared to leave, Josh hobbled over and took his place on the edge of the group. But the others started laughing at him. "You're too slow to go all the way to the next valley. Go back, slowpoke. We'll never get there if we have to wait on you. Go back, Joshua." Do you remember when I was talking about this last week, this book, I said, this book is a good reminder of how we are to treat others. It's a good reminder, has a good lesson about friendship. And showing God's love to each other. That's when Josh looked up and saw the shepherd standing in front of him. "They are right, my little Joshua. You better go back. This trip is too long for you. Go and spend the night in the stable." Josh looked at the man for a long time. Then he turned slowly and began limping away. When Josh got to the top of the hill, he looked down and saw all the other sheep headed toward the green grass. Never before had he felt so left out. A big tear slipped out his eye, rolled down his nose, and fell on a rock. Just then he heard Abigail behind him, and Abigail said what she always said when Josh felt sad. "Don't be sad, little Joshua. God has a special place for those who feel left out." Slowly, the two friends turned and walked to the stable together. By the time they got to the little barn, the sun was setting like a big orange ball. Josh and Abigail went inside and began to eat some hay out of the feed box. They were very hungry, and the hay tasted good. For a little while, Josh forgot that he had been left behind. "Go to sleep, little friend," Abigail said after they finished eating. "You've had a hard day." So Josh was tired, so he lay down in the corner on some straw and closed his eyes. He felt Abigail lie down beside him, and he was glad to have Abigail as a friend. Soon, Josh was asleep. At first, he slept soundly, curled up against Abigail's back. In his sleep, he dreamed. He dreamed of running and jumping just like the other sheep. He dreamed of long walks with Abigail through the valley. He dreamed of being in a place where he never felt left out. Suddenly, strange noises woke him up. What could that be? Abigail, he whispered, wake up. I'm scared. Abigail lifted her big head and looked around. The stable was dark except for a small lamp hanging on the wall. Somebody is in here, Josh whispered. They looked across the dimly lit stable. There, lying on some fresh hay in the feed box, was a baby. A young woman was resting on a big pile of hay beside the feed box. Joshua looked at Abigail, thinking his friend could tell him what was going on. But Abigail was just as surprised as Josh. Josh looked again at the woman and the child, then limped across the stable. He stopped next to the mother and looked into the baby's face. The baby was crying. He was cold. The woman picked up the baby and put him on the hay next to her. Josh looked around the stable for something to keep the baby warm. Usually there were blankets, but not tonight. The shepherds had taken them on their trip across the valley. Then Joshua remembered his own soft, warm wool. Timidly, he walked over and curled up close to the baby. Thank you, little lamb, the baby's mother said softly. Soon the little child stopped crying and went back to sleep. About that time, a man entered the stable carrying some rags. I'm sorry, Mary, he explained. This is all the cover I could find. It's okay, she answered. This little lamb has kept the new king warm. A king? Josh looked at the baby and wondered who he might be. His name is Jesus, Mary spoke, as if she knew Josh's question. God's son. He came from heaven to teach us about God.
No, check it out. Oh.
Just then there was another noise at the door. It was the shepherds, the ones who had left Joshua behind. Their eyes were big and they were excited. We saw a bright light and heard the angels, they began. Then they saw Joshua next to the baby. Joshua, do you know who this baby is? He does now. It was the young mother who was speaking. She looked at Joshua and smiled. God has heard your prayers, little lamb. This little baby is the answer. Joshua looked down at the baby. Somehow he knew this was a very special child, and this was a special moment. He also understood why he had been born with a crippled leg. Had he been like the other sheep, he would have been in the valley. But since he was different, he was in the stable among the first to welcome Jesus into the world. He turned and walked back to Abigail and took his place beside his friend. You were right, he told her. God does have a special place for me. So tomorrow you will be able to have an opportunity in your language activity, the assignment on Google Classroom, to read that book again or listen to that book again, and then you can respond to that, like what, by saying, what does that book make me think about? Yes, Elise?
I don't understand for the Google Classroom for the gingerbread thing.
Okay, so let me share my screen with you for a moment. Thank you for your question because maybe others need to have that explained to them too. Just a moment. This is not the right page and I will be able to get to the right page soon. Here we go. So these are the gingerbread children that you have on your printout. And then you also print out 2 circles that look like this. Does everyone see the screen? 2 circles that are overlapping, and above each circle there is a line. So you need to come up with your own 2 rules for how you're going to sort those gingerbread children. Now let's have a look at those gingerbread children again in a second. What do you notice about the gingerbread children? Let's look at them for what's the same and what's different about them. You can tell me what's the same. Yes, Madeline, or what's different?
I think that the stripes that are filled in, the stripes that are not filled in.
Okay, so Madeline sees that some of the gingerbread children have stripe decorations on them, and some of those stripes are colored in and some of them are not. Okay. Yes, Elise, what do you notice?
That some have circle eyes and some have triangle eyes.
Right, so then there's a rule that we could make. One rule is Madeline's rule that you can make about the stripes, something about the stripes. And another rule could be about the shape of their eyes. Anyone else? Yes, Joshua?
So some of them don't have feet and some of them do have feet.
Right, another way of saying is some of them have legs that are separate and some of them have what looks kind of like a skirt or like a statue more like.
Also, I already did mine. It looks like this.
Oh, show us. I can't see you. I have to turn to another page. If you have to do that, you might have to flip to another page too. Wow, Joshua, good. What I notice about yours is that you have some of your gingerbread children that meet both of your rules, and so they're in the middle, and some of your gingerbread children are outside of the circle because they don't match any of the rules. Very good. Yes, Tito?
Just want to show you that I'm none.
You did that too. Can you read what you labeled your circle rules for? Can you read that?
My circle rules is shapes and diamonds.
Okay. So one of the rules is shapes. What did you mean by that rule?
Stripes.
Stripes. Okay, so one of those stripes. And then the other, what did you mean by diamonds? Okay, that they have diamonds. Okay, and I see that because of your rule, they don't have any, and none of the gingerbread children have both stripes and diamonds. And that you don't have.
And it was just a hand that my mom just did.
Okay.
With the hand.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Thank you again for your question, Elise. Did anyone else have something that they wanted to ask about the gingerbread children math? Okay. Very good. So now I wonder what is inside the Wonder Box today? Does anyone have a guess what might be in the Wonder Box today? I'm just going to stand up so we can see it better. Raise your hand. Joshua.
I think there's going to be liquids.
Liquids. Do you have an idea of what kind of liquid? Just a guess.
Like water, I think.
Maybe water. Okay. Can you see the Wonder Box okay? Can you still hear me okay? Okay, Madeline, what's your guess?
My guess is going to be a balloon.
Maybe there is a balloon in our Wonder Box. Okay, Eleonora, what's your guess?
Candy canes or ornaments. Maybe.
Did you say candy or ornaments?
Candy canes or ornaments.
Candy canes? Okay. Well, now that we've had 3 guesses, it's time for us to look to see what is actually in our Wonder Box. Are you ready? Okay. We have sparkling water, can of sparkling water, so carbonated drink. A clear glass. Well, maybe we're just gonna have Mrs. Bosch's lunch in here. You think so? No, it can't be because I also have a penny. And some raisins. Just a little, just some of them. Now it's time for us to wonder, what does God want to teach us about the properties of solids, liquids, and gases from these few things? What are we going to do? Do you have a guess how we're going to use these things? Tito, what's your guess?
My guess is put the sparkling water, put the raisins, and then put the coin.
And where do you want me to take them? Do you want me to take them to Mr. Craigsman? He's here today. I can take them to Mr. Craigsman. Should I do that?
No.
No. What would you like me to do with them?
Put the sparkling water on the cup,
Okay.
then put the raisins, and then put the coin.
Okay, so maybe like Madeline's saying, maybe we're going to make a craft and make a tower with them. So like put the cup maybe on top, upside down, put the sparkling water on top of it. And then the raisin, or sorry, the penny. And then the raisins, like that. And that's a nice craft. No, that's not what we're going to do today. You're right. Does anyone else have another guess? Let's see. I don't see anyone else's hands. Do you have a guess what how we're going to use these materials? Oh, Eleonora?
You're going to dump the canned stuff into the cup, and then you're going to put some raisins inside the cup, and then you're going to put the penny in the cup.
Well, you got it. That's what we're going to do. I wonder what will happen once, oh, did you hear that? It went, that sounds like I'm opening a can of pop, but this is more healthy. It's just sparkling water. So I'm going to pour that into, I'll just bring it closer, into the glass carefully on the edge so that it doesn't let go of all the bubbles. So it's a clear drink. Look, it's just water with some flavors in it. Lots of bubbles. Can you see all the bubbles in there? All right, now I'm going to set that down. And just like Eleonora said, I'm going to be putting a raisin into the bubbly water. What do you think will happen to the raisin when it's in the bubbly water? What's your guess for what will happen? Yes, Muna?
It will float in the water.
So Muna thinks that the raisin is going to float in the water. Anyone else, just put your thumbs up if you agree with Muna that the raisin will float in the bubbly water. Or if you have a different guess, maybe raise your hand. If you have a different guess, what will happen to the raisin? Allegra?
I think it will get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Okay. You think that the raisin will act like the balloon and it will expand. Can you say expand, Allegra?
Expand.
Right. That's a word that we use in science to explain, to describe something that gets bigger, like what you would.
I like drinking AHA.
You like drinking that too? Well, now I'm going to just see. Okay, what we're going. I first want, before I do this, I first want to say that I want to remind you that God is the one who makes and designs liquids and solids and gases. And he's the one who's going to make this work. We're going to learn something about the properties of things that God has made by doing this. See if I can move it a little bit closer to the camera. Okay, so here I'm just going to tilt the camera. You can see that? You can see that a little bit better? You can see the glass? Everyone's seen it? Okay, so now I'm going to drop the raisin into this bubbly liquid. 1, 2, 3. Where did it go? Levi, where did it go?
To the bottom.
It went to the bottom, but now where is it now?
At the top, and that went back down to the bottom.
How do you think God's making this work? Can you see that okay? Do I need to tilt maybe I need to make it a different angle.
I think the raisin likes the elevator.
How is God making this work? He made the liquid, he made the gas that's inside the bubbles, and he made the raisin, that's the solid. All of these are working together. What's going on? I have an idea to add another raisin. We can make the raisins race. Should we do that? Okay. Yes, Josiah.
I've done something before. It's called for like Friday Science, and it happens once a year. They teach you about God. We did the same thing except with popcorn kernels.
Great. So Josiah, I don't know if you can hear him very well. Maybe Josiah, while I'm talking, you can adjust your microphone to be closer to your mouth. I can hear you better. And then what Josiah said he did a similar experiment to this. Levi has an idea of how God is making this work. How is this happening? How are the raisins able to drop down and then lift up and then drop down again? What's going on there, Levi?
I think the raisin just like the elevator.
They like the elevator. I didn't put an elevator in here.
A water elevator.
Well,
However you make that.
Well, like what do you mean by the water elevator? I didn't
Like
know.
it's swimming up and then swimming down.
So the raisins have grown arms and
Invisible
and
arms.
legs, and they're swimming in this liquid.
Most of the body parts are invisible, I guess.
You're funny. Eleonora?
I'm pretty sure it's because of the force of the water that's going up and then down.
That's a very good theory. Force of water, like when you swim down in a pool or a body of water like a lake, you can feel the pressure on your head. Like you can feel that pressure. So maybe the pressure at the bottom is so great that it's shooting those raisins up again. Well, let me see if I can move this even closer to the camera. What do you notice around the raisins as they're going to the bottom? What's happening to that raisin at the bottom? See what's covering it there, Elise? What's going on?
It's kind of moving. It's moving and then it's going back up.
Yes. Josiah?
Like the bubbles are moving it because the bubbles are going up and down.
Yeah, so the raisin is a solid and the bubbles can attach to it because there's a surface all around the raisin. And as the bubbles are attaching to the raisin at the bottom of the glass, they are making the raisin lighter. So it raises it up. But what happens when the raisin gets to the top, or to the surface? What happens to those bubbles then? Eleonora?
The bubbles make it go up like it's lighter. And then if the bubbles, they pop at the top, the bubbles pop off and then it sink.
Perfect. I liked the way you said that. As they get to the top, the bubbles pop. So they get to the liquid surface, the bubbles pop, and there's not enough bubbles then on the raisin surface to keep it light enough for that high. So then they drop down. I also had a penny. I also had a penny in the Wonder Box. Do you remember that? Oops, for some reason. Okay. There you go. Sorry about that, Josh. I don't know how that happened. Welcome back. So we just said that the raisin is surrounded and covered by the bubbles to make it light enough to rise up. And then when the raisin gets to the top surface of the liquid, the bubbles pop off, and then the raisin isn't light enough to stay up there, so it sinks down. Does that make sense, Joshua? Yeah. So then I just said, I remind you that there is also a penny in the Wonder Box. So what do you think will happen if I put this penny into the liquid? What's your guess about that? What do you think will happen when the penny is dropped in now? Joshua?
It will sink.
You think the penny will also sink? Do you think the penny will stay down, or do you think that the bubbles will be able to lift the penny up too?
No.
Okay, let's do a little vote. Who thinks that the penny, when I drop it down, will be lifted up by the bubbles, or who thinks that the bubbles will not be able to lift the penny? So thumbs up if you think the penny will be going up. Thumbs down if you think the penny will stay down. Show me on your screen with your real hand. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Boop. I see that bubbles are going on the penny, but the penny is staying down. Well, thank you for joining the meeting today. I'm going to close the meeting and in about 12 minutes, so get yourself a little bit of a wiggle jiggle, walkabout. You can join back in if you want to join for the picnic or social time using the same link. And don't forget, you can pop into my office, the same office, anytime today if you have a question. If I don't let you in right away, it's because I'm with someone else or in a meeting or on break. Sorry, I meant to say. Okay, bye-bye everyone. See you soon, maybe.